Chapter 51. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Harry was the center of attention in the abandoned classroom today. He was the best at using the disarming charm among the wizards below the 3rd grade, so Harry now understands what Shaw said, that strength is everything, and he has a stronger desire to become stronger. Without Ron to lead him to play badly, Harry is obviously different, so sometimes the choice of friends is really important. After the spell instruction, he didn't even want to go to the Quidditch training at 4 p.m., and just wanted to find a place to continue practicing the disarming charm. Harry has a small wish, which is to be one of the 10 people who first reach the 4th level of the disarming charm. He doesn't want any surprise gifts, but just wants Shaw, who is like a brother, to pay more attention to him. In addition to the role of role model, he may also find some special emotional sustenance in Shaw, so after lunch, Harry and Hermione went to the Black Lake to find a corner to practice spells together. Harry, your progress in the disarming charm is so fast, but why are the other spells so average? Maybe it's just like what Shaw explained, I'm more compatible with the disarming charm. Well, what kind of spell do I fit in? Ask Shaw when you have time, he'll definitely know. As the two were talking, Harry, even with his glasses, still had good eyesight, and saw a figure in the distance heading towards the Forbidden Forest. Hermione, it's Shaw. Hermione turned her head in the direction Harry pointed, but because she read too many books, she still couldn't see clearly, but she was also sure that the person was Shaw. In the hearts of loyal little fans, they may not know their own measurements, but they will definitely know their idols, and in the whole Hogwarts, the only one who walks so elegantly can be their idol. Harry said nothing, pulled Hermione up and ran towards the Forbidden Forest. Hermione said hesitantly. Harry, young wizards are not allowed to go there. It's very dangerous. I heard there are man-eating monsters. Isn't Shaw there? Maybe he needs our help. Yes, he does. Harry's words, from unconfidence to affirmation, silenced Hermione, but she didn't try to break free of Harry's hand. Hermione, who is usually strict with herself, has a very low bottom line when it comes to Shaw. The two ran all the way to the edge of the Forbidden Forest, only to see Shaw's fleeting figure. Harry didn't hesitate at all, and directly pulled Hermione into the grove. Harry, the Forbidden Forest is very dangerous, and it's easy to get lost. Forget it. Although Hermione is very courageous, she still has to be much more cautious. Harry's curiosity and recklessness burst out. He just wants to know why Shaw went to the Forbidden Forest alone. Hermione had no choice but to take out her wand, and her eyes couldn't help but explore and be alert around, hoping to catch up with Shaw as soon as possible. When we first entered the Forbidden Forest, we didn't feel anything. The sun was shining through the treetops, and the light in the forest was good, but as the two of us went deeper, the trees became thicker and denser. Vines were everywhere. The huge treetops separated the Forbidden Forest into a claustrophobic and gloomy independent space. Everywhere there were black and green tree roots that had turned out of the ground, tangled and dense, giving people a sense of mystery and horror. Even in the daytime, it was still dark and silent here. Hermione hugged Harry's arms nervously, her voice trembling slightly. Harry, how about we go back? Harry swallowed his saliva involuntarily and nodded unwillingly, but when they turned back and walked for a while, they found that they were lost. The two of them wandered around in the Forbidden Forest like headless flies. When they passed by a big tree, they found a dead bird or animal on the ground. Hermione's title of Miss Know-It-All wasn't for nothing. She recognized it immediately. This is the shrew. I've seen its illustration in Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. The shrew's cry can make people lose their minds. Who killed it? It doesn't look injured, but it looks a little shriveled. Harry's doubts were naturally not answered. Hermione suddenly made a silent gesture at his lips. Harry immediately shut up. The two listened carefully for a while and found that there was a sound of fighting coming from the left front. It might be Shaw. The two were overjoyed and immediately ran over there. When they came to the vicinity of the fight, they saw a dazzling green light flashing in the woods. Harry was very sensitive to the green light, and his eyes suddenly became a little blurry. Hermione didn't notice anything strange about Harry. She seemed to have thought of something, and quickly pulled Harry, who was a little confused, to squat behind a tree and whispered. Harry, we may have encountered a dark wizard. Be careful. I heard that a very evil spell is green. Hermione has not yet come into contact with the 3 unforgivable curses. In peacetime, this kind of spells are not something that ordinary wizards can touch. Hermione only analyzed it based on the billions of miscellaneous books she had read. Harry gradually came back to his senses. Just now, he seemed to hear a woman begging for mercy in his ear, very miserable and helpless. Oh, is that so? Hermione saw that Harry was not in a good state, and reached out to touch his forehead. Harry, are you okay? Harry shook his head to indicate that it was okay. It's okay, let's go over quietly and take a look. Harry really wanted to know why the green light made him hallucinate. Hermione was a little curious, because the Forbidden Forest belonged to Hogwarts. The dark wizards dared not come casually, so they had to find out what was going on. If Shaw was fighting with the bad guys, she had to help. The two hit it off and moved to the battle site with their hands and feet, but found that many large spider corpses appeared nearby. The small ones were at least the size of a human head, and the big ones were as big as tires. These spiders look hideous, with densely packed creepy eyes and a pair of sharp claws covered with thorns. Harry and Hermione's scalps tingled when they saw this, and they really didn't dare to move forward. The sound of fighting more than 10 meters away gradually stopped. Harry and Hermione, who were squatting behind a tree, leaned out to see. They didn't see the person directly because the other party was squatting behind a spider corpse the size of a carriage. Harry, you have good eyesight, did you see who it was? Was it Shaw? No, wait, did you hear any sound? Crackling. Harry's face suddenly turned pale when he said this, and he and Hermione, who was also terrified, slowly turned their heads and saw 8 bright red bloodthirsty eyes staring at them. Now don't talk about bullshit courage. The two of them were so scared that they hugged each other, trembling and couldn't even make a sound. Staring at them was a carriage-sized 8-eyed giant spider. This giant spider did not attack with its claws, but sprayed a large ball of spider silk to cover Harry and Hermione's head and face. After quickly wrapping the two of them into a ball, the giant spider pulled the silk cocoon and ran away. It was obvious that it did not want to be discovered by the spider hunters in the distance. When Harry and Hermione reacted from the shock, their heads were hit several times by the stones on the ground. They also began to scream heartbreakingly. Ah! Help! Help! It is unknown how much regret the two of them have now, but how desperate they are can be heard from their shrill screams. They did not think that this big spider was inviting them home for tea. Just before the two of them were about to be knocked unconscious while being dragged along the ground, a dazzling green light flashed through the gap in the woods and shot directly at the 8-eyed giant spider. Avada Kedavra. Chapter 52. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although separated by dense spider webs, the captivating green light still instantly filled Harry and Hermione's eyes. Then they heard a desperate squeak in their ears. When they regained their sight, they saw the big spider dragging them fell to the ground with a thud, without a sound, dead. The two were still a little drowsy, and the rustling sound of footsteps stepping on fallen leaves gradually approached. Then the spider webs on their bodies were removed, and after being helped up one by one, Harry and Hermione saw who saved them. Why are you here? Don't you know that the Forbidden Forest is very dangerous? You almost died just now. Shaw's voice was very cold, so cold that it made people feel bone-chilling. The two lowered their heads in shame, not knowing how to answer. Hermione couldn't help but shed tears. One was scared, and the other was wronged. Harry was a boy after all, so he raised his head and explained. We just saw you enter the Forbidden Forest, and we just wanted to. Shaw didn't give him a chance to explain, nor did he want to listen to the childish remarks. It was obvious that Harry still remembered to eat but not to be beaten, so he interrupted directly. Reckless man. Have you forgotten what I said to you last time? Oh. It seems that the immortal halo of the Savior makes you blindly arrogant, huh? The disappointment in Shaw's eyes and the sarcasm in his words made Harry's face pale, and he lowered his head again without saying a word. At this time, Hermione stood up and cried loudly. Don't blame Harry, it's me who clamored to come to you to ask for the most suitable spell. I overestimated my ability and thought I could deal with the monsters in the Forbidden Forest. Harry was immediately anxious when he heard Hermione making excuses for him. Sure. It's me. I just couldn't help but wonder what you were doing in the Forbidden Forest. I know I was wrong. Shaw looked at Hermione with tears in her eyes and Harry with a pale face, and sighed secretly. After all, they are two children who have not grown up. If they always use the pros and cons of adults to judge and demand, there may be problems. Humph, but Shaw also had no intention of being a warm-hearted nanny. He snorted coldly and walked towards the dead eight-eyed giant spider. Dunn took out a special poker card from behind and pressed his wand against the fluffy corpse of the giant spider. The contact point flashed with magic light, and the corpse quickly shrank. Under Shaw's guidance, a ray of magic gathered into the poker card, absorbing the magic power of this spider. About 10 scales of magic power were stored. As for why it was not absorbed into the body, the answer is that the body is not strong enough and the upper limit has been absorbed. His total magic scale is already 130 at this moment, which exceeds that of ordinary adult wizards, so Shaw can only use cards to store the excess magic first, which is a good way. It can be used to construct spells in the future, or as a magic reserve. Shaw was thinking whether he should go for crazy exercise to improve his physique and become a golden wheel muscle man, but he quickly denied this bad idea. The picture was too embarrassing. Shaw just stood up and heard Harry's arrogant words. Sure, your card is really beautiful. Draco always shows off in front of me. Can you sell me one? I have money. Hermione didn't care about what Shaw was doing just now, and her expression was eager to try. The Granger family has a private dental clinic in London, which is a very superior life in the UK, so Hermione has never lacked money since she was a child. If possible, I also want to buy one. I have a lot of pocket money. Shaw was so angry that he laughed. Comparing arrogance with black. He turned around and showed the exquisite and gorgeous playing cards in his hand. Do you know how precious the material used to make this kind of card is? In ancient times when there were relatively more rare magic materials, it was also very precious, and a set of playing cards exhausted the Black family's collection for hundreds of years. Do you know how precious the secret recipe for making this card is? It can be said that in the entire magical world, there are no more than 10 people or families who know similar secret recipes. Do you know how much it costs for me to ask the alchemist to make it? This is relatively cheap, 500 galleons per card. Then how much do you think this card should cost? Harry and Hermione were stunned by Shaw's statement. Even if the two could not guess the value of the playing cards, they knew that the value was really high and there was no market for it. Harry still did not give up. Then, why did you give Draco one? Shaw put away the card and said in a faint voice. Because he will be unconditionally loyal to me and become my follower. After that, he walked out of the Forbidden Forest. Harry and Hermione looked at each other behind him, and then hurriedly followed. Harry, I can follow you, even without the poker cards. Hermione, I also support you unconditionally. I said I would help you realize your ideal. Avada Kedavra. Shaw waved the spare wand in his hand, and a green light burst out from the tip of the wand, hitting an eight-eyed giant spider in front of him that was preparing to attack. He walked over and squatted down to continue absorbing spirits for storage, and said without turning his head. You are not qualified now. Harry still stubbornly compared with Draco. But Draco seems to be very weak too. Well, he is quite weak, but he is a Slytherin and my roommate. It's nothing to be relatively special. By the way, his family can also be used by me, so Draco is a bit useful. While guiding the magic power to infuse the playing cards, Shaw tried to find an excuse to prevaricate. Harry was almost angry to death. Why did the sorting hat put me in Gryffindor when I was sorted? Shaw sighed secretly. This matter cannot be said openly. He secretly complained about the old bee's dishonesty. If Harry was not placed in the concentration camp for reckless men, how could he cultivate the courage to die? If Harry was not a body with two souls and Voldemort was stubborn, it would really be GG. Shaw stood up and looked at the angry Harry. Do you know what spell I just used? Sure enough, when it came to this, Harry and the others remembered this and immediately shifted their attention. Sure, why do I appear in a trance when I see this green light spell, and hear a woman's cry? Sure, this is evil black magic. How can you use it? This is only used by dark wizards, and you seem to be absorbing these spiders. Shore stood up, let the wand flash green light, and said to Hermione first. Yes, I also want to tell you that this is one of the 3 unforgivable curses. If you use it, you will be imprisoned in Azkaban. Will you report me? Hermione clenched her hands tightly and said hesitantly. Of course I won't, but don't use it again in the future, okay? Shore chuckled and shook the card in his hand. So this is why you can't get it. You don't support me firmly enough. Ignoring Hermione who wanted to refute, Shaw looked at Harry who looked anxious. He touched his forehead with his wand. This scar was caused by the spell I just used. I can't tell you why you reacted so strongly. Just think of it as the spell causing bad memories of your childhood. Shore said no more and continued to lead the way out, followed by 2 distracted people. After a while, an arrow shot from the front of Shaw and stuck in the ground 1 meter in front of him. Looking at the trembling arrow shaft, Shaw broke out in a cold sweat and was a little careless. At this time, a magical creature with a human upper body and a horse lower body appeared in front of the 3 people. This is the centaur in the Forbidden Forest. This centaur has a black beard and 6 strong limbs. It is aiming at Shaw and the other 2 with a bow and arrow, and warned. Little ponies from outside, the Forbidden Forest does not welcome you. This is the territory of the centaurs. Get out. Chapter 53. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Facing the warning and threat of force from the centaurs, Shaw felt unlucky. He had heard that the centaurs were unruly and difficult to communicate with. Today was a great experience. He was so stunned by the stars. I was clearly walking out of the Forbidden Forest. Was I blind? And he shot arrows at me. When did the Forbidden Forest become a place for centaurs? Did the old bee agree? What kind of title is a foal? Who are you humiliating? Shaw was very angry. He was ruthless and didn't say much. He raised his wand and used the throat-sealing blade directly. If the centaurs were not a kind of intelligent creature and had signed a contract with Hogwarts, killing them would cause subsequent troubles. He would have wanted to use the killing curse. The spell flashing with dark light shot at the centaurs at high speed with an arc of electricity. The centaurs were indeed the tribe that dominated the Forbidden Forest and naturally had excellent skills. The centaur kicked his 4 hooves and jumped to the side. While dodging the spell, he also shot the sharp arrow in his hand at Shaw, also without any mercy, aiming directly at the vital point. Shaw waved his staff to set up an armor spell to block the sharp arrow, watching the centaur jumping up and down flexibly in the woods, and whistling while shooting arrows, probably calling for his companions. It is estimated that a single attack will not be able to do anything to the opponent for the time being, and a quick battle must be made. He knew it well. But he didn't want to face a group of centaurs, so he had to use the ranged trapping skill. Water prison. That the centaur, who was moving quickly, found that large streams of water began to flow out from the roots and vines around him to block the way. He didn't take it seriously, and was ready to run away before the water flow formed a spell, so he stepped directly into the puddle that had not yet accumulated. But the next moment, the centaur staggered, ran a few steps with 4 hooves, and fell to the ground with convulsions, and then his body trembled even more. Shaw was also a little stunned. He hadn't even started the shaping spell yet. The centaur must have a bump on his head. Why did he fall into the trap? Well, the wand he was using now was not National Collapse, so the water flow had its own electric shock, and the centaur was naturally paralyzed. Shaw didn't care. He used the water flow to turn the rope to trap the centaur and dragged him to his side. He looked at the strong centaur with interest. At this moment, the paralysis effect gradually dissipated, and the centaur also recovered. He struggled hard for a few times but failed, and then he said angrily. Little pony, I advise you to let go. Do you want to declare war on the noble centaur? Shaw was about to ask about the magical species of centaur, but suddenly he lost interest. Choke and tongue. Torture and deformation. Point 2 spells were cast on the centaur in succession, and the centaur's eyes widened, his limbs began to twist, the surface of his sturdy body was also wriggling, and his bones creaked inside. The centaur was in great pain. his facial features were twisted into a knot, and he opened his mouth but couldn't make a sound. Hermione and Harry were dumbfounded, as if they were meeting Shaw for the first time. Harry was okay, having seen the tragic appearance of the twins being electrotherapy, and could barely accept it, but he was also hesitant about whether to persuade Shaw to calm down. But Hermione's saintly heart broke out. "Stop, Shaw, do you want to torture him to death? He didn't hurt us, let him go." Shaw didn't have a hobby of sadism, he was just used to conquering people with virtue. He wanted to teach the centaur a lesson, so that he would speak properly in the future. Anyway, the pain would be gone after a while. But when he heard Hermione's words, Shaw's expression changed, and he turned around to look at Hermione, who looked heartbroken. "Oh. Are you questioning me? Then who just said that he would support me unconditionally?" Hermione was in no mood to argue with Shaw at this moment, she said anxiously. "Sure, please let him go first, please." Shaw was unmoved, and gave the centaur another transformation torture, and the centaur rolled his eyes and fainted directly. "How could you do this? Woo-woo." The idol image quickly collapsed in Hermione's heart, her nose was sour, and she cried loudly, and then hurried over to check on the centaur's situation. Shaw didn't care, and looked at Harry again. "Do you also think what I did just now was wrong?" Harry's face was not very good either. "It seems wrong. We just need to defeat him. There is no need to torture him." Shaw smiled, waved his wand, and fired an unskilled first-level forgetfulness at the centaur's head. He was done with it, and he didn't care whether the centaur would become a fool. Then he removed the water flow that trapped the centaur. "If you don't want to be caught and tortured by the centaur tribe, then walk faster." After saying that, he walked quickly out of the forbidden forest, thinking that he must not be so cowardly next time he comes. Harry saw Hermione still bending the centaur's 6 twisted limbs, and hurried up to drag the centaur away. "Hermione, he will be rescued by his companions, we have to leave quickly." Hermione struggled, and heard the distant there was a sound of galloping, and after hesitating for a moment, he followed Harry to chase after Shaw. It was not until the entrance of the forbidden forest that the two caught up with Shaw, and Hermione couldn't wait to question him. "Sure, how can you be so cruel? Not only do you use black magic, but you also torture intelligent creatures by lynching. This is illegal." Shaw looked at the black lake in the distance with his hands behind his back, as if he could see the turbulent undercurrent below through the calm lake surface, and said leisurely, "I am not a good person, and I have said it before, this world is not beautiful, there are countless conspiracies and intrigues, and the dirtiness is even more filthy than you can imagine. If you want to rebuild a truly beautiful world, you don't have a cold heart, and you don't have more cruel means than those scums, so you'd better go to bed early. That's why I said that you two are not qualified to follow me." Hermione is a debate expert, she said unconvinced. "We can establish sound laws through proper channels and let everyone strictly abide by them. Didn't you do well in Slytherin and Gryffindor before? Why now?" Naive, Shaw had no intention of arguing with Hermione. Harry and Heck had not experienced Quirrell's fraud, the experience of the Chamber of Secrets, the hunt of the Black Dog, the baptism of the Goblet of Fire, the persecution of the Pink Toad, the death of Dumbledore and the plunder of Voldemort, so they didn't understand the cruel truth of this world at all. He said that more is equal to nothing, so they continued to walk towards Hogwarts. Hermione still wanted to drag Shaw to debate, wanting to pull her idol into the right path. Harry remained silent, not knowing what he was thinking. Outside the castle, the three of them happened to meet Draco and Theodore. Draco seemed to be in a hurry to prove something, but was interrupted directly by Shaw. "Draco, let's talk about your business later, Theodore." The lonely and handsome Theodore immediately stepped forward, his back straight. What an abstinent boy. "Chief. What would you do if I asked you to kill a good person?" Theodore's eyes were cold, and he said straightforwardly. "Who is it?" "I'll kill him right now." Hermione said indignantly, "Kill innocent people too? If you kill them, they will go to Azkaban." Theodore's expression was emotionless. "If the wise chief asked me to kill, there must be something to kill about that person. Even if he is really innocent, I will kill him if the chief asked me to. As for going to jail, I don't care, and I believe the chief will save me. Shore patted him on the shoulder with satisfaction, and took out a poker card with the 9 of spades and handed it to Theodore. This belongs to you. Go back to Alice and she will tell you what to do in the future. Theodore suppressed his excitement. He knew that he was finally accepted by Shaw. He took the poker card solemnly with both hands and knelt heavily on one knee. Thank you, Chief. Shore patted his head. Get up. Follow me well in the future. There will be a day to realize your ideal. Let the name of Not resound throughout the world. Go find Alice. Theodore stood up, bowed 90 degrees again, and then turned and strode away. Shaw thought of the personalities of his 2 loyal subordinates and suddenly felt a sense of déjà vu. Black version of Bella and little Barty. Shaw laughed at himself and turned to look at Harry and Hermione. Theodore Nott is the follower I need. He is loyal, ruthless, and calm. This is the person who can accomplish great things. You too, just study with peace of mind. Without waiting for the 2 stunned little wizards to react, he asked Draco, who looked constipated. What about you? What's the matter? Draco just looked like he had a lot to say, but now his throat seemed to be clogged with phlegm. I. The surrounding yawn was crazy, scared. Congratulations to myself for entering the finals without fever, and still being able to write well. Chapter 54. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Draco was so discouraged that his hands were bruised. He had mustered up the courage to tell Shaw loudly that not all the Malfoys were cowards, but now seeing Theodore's perfect performance, and being awarded the 9 of spades, and stabbing him again, Draco felt so funny. Shaw looked at the choked Draco, patted his shoulder with his hand, and smiled gently. Look up, you are a proud Malfoy. It doesn't matter whether the Malfoys have firm people or not. You have your role. By the way, go find Alice later, don't let me down. Shaw added, turned around and walked towards the castle leisurely. Draco fell into deep thought for the 3rd time, once at the beginning of the school year, twice today. Hermione still didn't want to give up. She chased Shaw, who was slowly going away, with the dazed Harry, and asked loudly. Why choose violence? Why can't we talk about reason? Shaw's ears moved and he stopped. It was hard to describe in his heart. This was what he had thought about before entering the magic world, but later it was proved that conquering people with virtue was the right thing to do. He turned around and slowly explained to Hermione and Harry, who had caught up with him. I am actually a very reasonable person, but reason is only useful when everyone abides by reason. However, when facing unreasonable people, such as those pedantic and ignorant purebloods, such as the centaurs who just refuse to communicate. At this time, I can only be more arrogant and unreasonable than them, so that I can make a difference and realize my ambitions, so I chose violence. Hermione, reality is not an ivory tower, you are too naive. Shaw has been a life mentor enough, and it is the last time to explain his behavior to Hermione and others. After Shaw said this, he strode away without looking back. Along the way, he also thought about his recent actions in his heart. Voldemort's violent means of conquering the magic world are not useless. He absorbed some of them and combined them with Grindelwald's bewitching means. With absolute strength, he would be perfect. Draco had thought clearly at this time, knowing that Shaw had not given up on him, and he must have his own advantages. He quickly rubbed his face, shook his platinum hair, and adjusted his collar, turning into a noble platinum boy again. He raised his head and looked at Harry and Hermione, thinking of Shaw's words that these 2 people were not qualified to be followers, with a little disdain in his eyes, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Maybe they would not be the same path in the future. Draco didn't say much, and followed Shaw with an elegant pace. Harry and Hermione were silent and stopped for a long time. The 3 views of the 2 people today were almost shattered, and their minds were too confused. It was not until Wood came to find Harry to go to Quidditch training that they left separately, but no one could tell how their psychology changed. Time flies, and 1 month has passed. Ahem, if I don't speed up, the 1st grade will be enough for the author to write 1 million words. In the House of All Requests, in a special room requested by Shaw, the layout here is a bit like the 5-pointed star array. The whole hall is black and purple, and the atmosphere is solemn and dignified. yet gorgeous and noble. In the upper corner of the east is a high platform, on which stands a majestic throne made of black gold. In the other 4 directions, there are 13 luxurious gold-inlaid chairs, and different patterns are carved on the backs of the chairs, which are 4 different colors of playing card sequence patterns. In the center of each direction, there are 3 chairs that are obviously larger and more gorgeous, which are the exclusive seats for the 3 dukes, marquises, and earls in this color. At this moment, the 12 chairs are almost empty. Only Alice, dressed in a gorgeous black robe, sits on the throne of the Earl of Spade. On her left hand, Draco and Theodore sit. On the purple-black throne on the high platform, of course, was Shaw. He was not wearing luxurious clothes, but in the eyes of Alice and the other 2, Shaw's temperament was like a god overlooking the world from the clouds. The seats here were all made by Alice and old Fry in the past month. It was a big expense and a lot of thought. Although the pentagram contains some myths and legends, Shaw only took one of the meanings. The 5 corners represent the 5 elements. The upper corner is thunder, originally spirit, the upper right is water, the lower right is fire, the upper left is wind, and the lower left is earth. Shaw is thunder, and the 4 colleges of snake, lion, eagle and badger represent the elements of water, fire, wind and earth, that which just represents that he can rule. The 4 colleges of Hogwarts. Shaw sat calmly, looking at the empty field, and said to the 3 serious-looking subordinates with a warm smile, "This is our first throne meeting. Although there are not many people and it is quite quiet, everyone should have confidence in me and yourselves. I believe that we will only grow stronger." When Alice and the other 2 heard this, they could not help but his back straightened even more. Shaw looked up at the sky, as if he could see through nothingness, and said slowly, "The magic world has become corrupt, and the Muggle world is changing with each passing day. I have a bad feeling. In the past month, you have basically mastered the first-level brain block technique. Although you can listen to some of my secret plans, your current tasks are only 2 points, study hard and look for talents." The 3 of them knew what Shaw meant, and they were still too weak after all, even though the 3 of them have been practicing several high-end spells every day for a month, getting up earlier than chickens and sleeping later than dogs. But Alice, who is in the 5th grade, is at best at the level of an ordinary Auror. Shaw did not mean to blame them. Now is the stage of building high walls and storing up food. Okay, don't think too much. A meeting should be held in the manner of a meeting. You should each report the situation. Alice stood up first and walked to a blue-purple Thunderbird-shaped reporting desk in the center. She put one hand on her chest and looked up to report to Shaw. "I have investigated the elite students of the 4 colleges. The other 3 colleges are okay, but the quality of Hufflepuff students is hard to describe. However, there is still a super elite seedling that can be developed. I will try to contact. As for the actions of the Pure Blood Society outside, my grandfather wrote to me that due to the chief's big move in the school, there are some secrets inside the Pure Blood Society that he can no longer find out. Let Theodore explain this to you." Shaw nodded. Alice stepped back, and Theodore walked lightly but not slowly to the podium. "Chief, I have been pretending to be reconciled with Old Knot recently, and he said that I was deliberately lurking around you, so I got some good intelligence. There are now 8 purebloods targeting the chief. After being blocked by the principal, these people have no practical way except to let their children make trouble for you and let their children transfer to other schools next semester. Chief, in fact, those purebloods are strong on the outside but weak on the inside, and their main energy is not to deal with us. Profit-making and power have made them unable to spare too much attention, so you don't have to worry. As for those troublemakers in the college, I have dealt with them severely several times, and some have secretly turned against us." After Theodore went down, Draco thought of the things he had to report and request, and he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. He stood up and went to the reporting office. Seeing that Draco was sweating, Shaw gave him an encouraging look. Shaw actually didn't care much about these things. He had more direct methods. Now this was nothing more than training his men. Draco put his hand on his chest and spoke slowly. "Chief, about Harry?" Shaw did not expect that what Draco reported was not about something that would make him socialize widely, but about Harry and Hermione. Chapter 55. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Some readers do not believe that the author has accelerated the progress. June Tong will prove that today's chapter is the general content of a hurried month. If it is spread out, it is estimated that it can be written 40 or 50,000 words. If it is watered down, Harry has not been doing well recently. Shaw's alienation makes Harry very sad. After the incident in the Forbidden Forest, Harry's condition was not right. He was always out of shape during Quidditch training, which made the whole team doubt him. This is not the worst. The students of the Lion Academy, especially the first-year students, saw that he was alienated by Shaw. Under the gloating Ron's deception, everyone followed suit and ignored this savior who was very popular before. For Harry, the worst thing is that for some reason, Snape, the professor of potions, seems to hate him very much. During the potions class, he was targeted and deducted a lot of points. He even deducted 5 points for entering the classroom with his left foot. After the potions class, he was not spared. There were all kinds of elusive encounters. He was deducted points for being disheveled or stepping on flowers and plants. Harry was almost mad. However, his only 3 friends, Draco and Hermione, were also busy with their own things and could not see each other for a few days. Neville was not a suitable person to confide in. Harry became more and more withdrawn and found that he was really an orphan. So now he would hide in a remote place to practice spells when he had nothing to do. At this moment, he had no intention of thinking whether Shaw's approach was right or not. He just wanted to learn Shaw's method and become stronger, stronger, and stronger. He swore that when he became stronger, he would beat the snobbish classmates in the Lion Academy and the venomous professor in the Snake Academy. Hermione had a bad life recently. After her idol image collapsed, she did not give up. In addition to completing her normal studies, she spent a lot of time studying law and history of magic every day, and her bags under her eyes became heavier and heavier. She spent all day in the library reading. She wanted to formulate a set of laws that were more in line with the magic world, and she wanted to find a correct path from history to change Shaw's ideas. But what made Hermione despair was that after she read a lot of literature and books on the laws of the magic world, only then did she realize that she seemed to be really naive. Countless so-called laws of the magic world are full of loopholes, all for the service of those powerful people, and there is no possibility of filling the loopholes, because they are intentional. Countless histories have told her that anyone who wants to overthrow and reshape the current unreasonable social structure will shed blood, without exception. And the most uncomfortable thing for Hermione is that the entire magic world is extremely unfriendly to Muggles and Muggle wizards, and discrimination is everywhere. Some Muggle wizards can't find a job after graduation, and they return to the Muggle world directly with elementary school education. If you don't want to go back to the Muggle world, you can only go to Nocturne Alley, where 70% of the dark wizards wandering around are Muggle wizards, and the pure-blooded dark wizards are all living in luxury houses. Therefore, Shaw's thoughts are probably to speak up for Muggle-born wizards like her. Hermione is confused. I didn't expect that in the end. The clown turned out to be me. Dumbledore has been having a hard time recently. We know who the traitor lurking in the school is, but we can't find Voldemort's trace. This is nothing. It's still under the control of the Old Bee, but the script of the savior directed by me seems to have failed. Harry, the little guy, didn't doubt the professor of potions who targeted him and conducted a follow-up investigation. He didn't continue to be curious about what was guarded under the 3-headed dog. He asked the big-mouthed Hagrid to cooperate, but Harry didn't ask. Snape himself was very involved in the performance and enjoyed it, but this was not the result that the Old Bee wanted, and Harry was not keen on Quidditch, which could bring glory, and he didn't care about the College Cup. He didn't get along well with the courageous little lions. Then how can we cultivate the courage to move forward and fearless? Is the prophecy false? Another thing that is hard to say whether it is a good thing or a bad thing is that Gryffindor has really become better, but Dumbledore always feels that something is not right. He ordered people to go to the Muggle world to find out about Shaw. Apart from a large number of travel records in the past 2 years, there are very few clues about his previous life experience. The Huaxia Chinese restaurant where Shaw once mentioned working could not be found, so Dumbledore was very distressed, hesitating whether to ask Shaw to come to the office again and use a double trick of legitimate memory and desert Veritasrum. Well, this is not the most uncomfortable thing for Dumbledore. He recently received news that the Saints attacked the New Zealand Quidditch team and wanted to capture their mascot. Although they did not succeed, it also caused a very bad impact, and many magical departments were panicked. Not only did the Old B have to deal with the aftermath of this matter at the International Confederation of Wizards, but when he ran to ask Gellert, the other party did not shirk his responsibility. Just say you have, I want one too. Dumbledore was so angry that he almost fired a Vulcan to clear the way for Grindelwald. This was not the worst. Gellert had become addicted to pretending to be sick recently, saying that he couldn't bend down or take off his socks, and asked Grindelwald to change his socks every now and then. He had actually ended up being a bootlicker. Quirrell had been having a bad time recently. Voldemort was increasingly dissatisfied with him, not only because he had trouble stealing the Philosopher's Stone, but also because Shaw had not taken the initiative to come to him according to Voldemort's plan. He always punctured the brain to punish Quirrell to vent his anger. If Shaw didn't come to ask for advice on the fiery fire curse and explore the secrets of the snake art, what did it have to do with him? Quirrell secretly thought that Shaw might not look down on the half-bottle of water book written by the Dark Lord. The Dark Lord's occasional punishment was not Quirrell's biggest fear. Quirrell hadn't expected that the Dark Lord would consume a lot of his vitality when he was parasitic in his body. In order to replenish his vitality, Quirrell had to use his previous savings to buy recovery potions. He didn't know whether he could obtain supreme power and wealth with the Dark Lord, but he was about to become a pauper. And then he would become sickly without money to buy medicine, and he might die of illness in the end. The Dark Lord did come up with a solution, and then he went to the Forbidden Forest to kill unicorns and suck blood. Quirrell didn't agree immediately. He didn't want to be cursed until he was at his wit's end. But there are still some people who are happy recently. For example, Professor McGonagall was so happy to see the elegant Gryffindor, and her steps became more elegant. For example, Professor Snape was naturally happy to suppress Harry Potter by order. He would do it without the headmaster's order, but the intensity might not be so great. For example, Ron was almost laughing when he saw that Harry was less popular than himself. What's so great about being a savior? He still has no friends. For example, Seamus was taught by Shaw, so he found the most suitable spell for himself, the explosion spell. Seamus not only learned this spell quickly, but also used it with twice the power of ordinary people. So Seamus is now Shaw's little fanboy, and neither Ron nor Harry cares about him. For example, Percy and Montague, who are deeply trusted by Shaw and given great power, now both walk with the wind. This world can only show one thing: the joys and sorrows of different people are not the same, and Shaw, the instigator of everything, is listening to Draco's plea in the room of begging. Draco, Chief. Chapter 56. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At the reporting desk, Draco was narrating with a tangled expression. Chief, Harry is my friend. I don't want him to be so lonely. I have experienced the feeling of having no friends. Please accept him again. Hermione is crazy now. Please help her. Although I don't like Hermione, but I think she is helpful to our ideals. She is indeed too idealistic, but we can help her change. Shaw listened quietly to Draco's description of Harry and Hermione's recent situation in the past month, as well as his request. Well, no matter how arrogant the brother is, he still values friendship, but he still doesn't want to care. Draco looked at Shaw expectantly, and his heart was very nervous. The more he got along with Shaw, the less he understood each other. Shaw was easygoing in daily life, but once it came to career and philosophy, he would become very serious and cold. But Draco really didn't want his few friends to suffer. Although he had been living a life of luxury since childhood and played with some pure-blood children of the same class, none of them were sincere, so Draco was particularly concerned about Harry and Harry's friends. As for Shaw, he couldn't tell how he felt about him, whether he was a father, a brother, or a teacher, or something else. Anyway, he just had to listen to him. Looking at Shaw on the throne, Draco's throat was a little dry, and when he was about to say a few more words, Shaw spoke. Draco, I'm glad that you value friendship, but some things can't be done one-sidedly. I sympathize with Harry and Hermione's experience, but this is also what they have to go through. Growth requires hardships. Our organization needs mature, calm, wise and courageous talents. Draco, if you want to help, use your wisdom and strength to help, which is also a training for you. Draco's eyes were gray, and he opened his mouth several times. Under Shaw's calm eyes, he only condensed thousands of words into one sentence. Yes, Chief. When Draco returned to his seat, Shaw was about to disband the meeting, and Alice stood up again and asked. Chief, Slytherin and Gryffindor have been reorganized. Although there are a few people who are secretly uncooperative, it is not a big deal. Chief, do you have a plan to reorganize Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff? I hope you can cooperate with me. Shaw stood up and waved his hand confidently. I already have a plan. You just need to prepare the etiquette team as you did last time. By the way, remember to organize the duel between the two houses tomorrow. Alice bowed respectfully without asking any more questions. I understand. Then the four of them went out together. When they came to the outside, Shaw said to the other three. You go back first. I'll do something. After saying goodbye to the three, Shaw went to the Ravenclaw Tower alone. It was late at night. Shaw put on the disillusionment charm and wandered in the quiet and quaint castle corridor. He also met a few young couples kissing in the dark corners. After a while, Shaw came to the door of the Ravenclaw lounge. Seeing the bronze door knocker at the entrance, Shaw still cast the illusion spell and reached out to touch the door knocker. Then he closed his eyes and communicated with the door knocker in his mind. Mr. Door Knocker, hello, I'm here again. Door Knocker, what theory are you going to teach me today? I'm already familiar with various solutions to the chicken and rabbit in the same cage. Come and teach me something difficult. Mr. Door Knocker is really smart. Fortunately I'm prepared. Today we will learn the problem of draining and adding water to the pool at the same time. Door Knocker, oh. Xiao Air, this question sounds very interesting, tell me quickly. Xiao Ming wants to take a bath in a private swimming pool of 1,000 cubic meters today. The sluice gate releases 100 cubic meters of water per minute, but Xiao Ming forgot to stop the water leak, so the water leak leaks 30 cubic meters of water per minute. How long does it take to fill the entire pool? Door Knocker, okay, this Xiao Ming is really careless, but I can't calculate it, tell me the solution quickly. We should. Shore carefully taught the bronze door knocker math, and he had been doing this for a month. The door knocker and the sorting hat are actually the same. They are both alchemically activated items of the founder, with certain wisdom and special uses. The sorting hat can see through people's hearts, and the door knocker can learn knowledge independently. Otherwise, for thousands of years, if it could not keep up with the times, the sorting hat would have no new school songs to sing, and the door knocker would have no new knowledge and riddles to ask. You can't always ask others whether the chicken or the egg came first. A month ago, when Shaw was thinking about how to intervene in the internal affairs of the Eagle Academy, he tried to ask the door knocker a high-level math question, and the result was obvious. The door knocker can communicate with him and propose to learn these unheard-of knowledge. Ravenclaw's desire for knowledge and intelligence are also reflected in her creations. The door knocker has a super learning ability. Any knowledge can be applied after just one word, months, almost emptying the math, physics and chemistry knowledge of Shaoa University. Shao's only requirement for teaching it is to wait for his order and ask questions tomorrow night. Shao's purpose is very simple. He positioned the Little Eagles as scientists in the magic world. In the future, when magic and technology are combined, the Little Eagles will be the main force. So let the Little Eagles learn more Muggle knowledge in advance, and Xiao has prepared hundreds of math, physics and chemistry textbooks for high school and below in advance. In the early stage, many Little Eagles may not be able to answer the door knocker questions and sleep in the corridor. Well, these are all trivial matters. You will get used to it while sleeping, and if you are not used to it, you will learn math, physics and chemistry well. Of course, Shao's biggest purpose is to take this opportunity to intervene in the affairs of the Eagle Academy. At 2 o'clock in the middle of the night, Shao taught the last bit of trigonometric function knowledge to the bronze door knocker. Okay, tomorrow night, you can start asking questions. Remember to start with elementary school questions, and add the difficulty of the first grade in January. I will provide more difficult university courses in the future. Happy cooperation, Mr. Knocker. Shore left the Ravenclaw Tower and still did not return to the Slytherin common room, but came to the kitchen. Since there is a plan for the Eagle House, the plan for the Badgers can only be food. After all, the Badgers' motto is, in life, only food is worth living up to. the Hufflepuff common room can be said to be the happiest place in Hogwarts. The front two corners are the hall, and the back corner is the kitchen. Go upstairs and the classroom is there. Go downstairs and Snape is there. Near the Hufflepuff common room, there is a fruit oil painting. Use your fingers to tickle the pear, and after a burst of squeaky laughter, the kitchen door will open. Shaw walked into the kitchen. Even now, it was still bustling with activity. More than 100 neatly dressed house elves were preparing breakfast materials for the 1,000 or so teachers and students tomorrow morning. According to Shaw's estimation, these elves would be busy until 4 o'clock before going to bed, and then get up at 6 o'clock to clean the entire Hogwarts. It's not that Dumbledore was exploiting them. The headmaster had already told them to do a thorough cleaning once a month, but the elves themselves didn't want to. A sharp-eyed elf saw Shaw coming in and ran over happily. "Ah, it's the Honorable Mr. Black. You're here to teach us cooking again." Then, the whole kitchen was like a nest of explosions. Chapter 57. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hundreds of elves put down their work, gathered around, and greeted enthusiastically. "Are you hungry, sir? The pickled fish I make now is the best here. Sir, your sleeves are dirty, do you want me to wash your clothes? Sir, do you have a new recipe today? We have learned all the 8 major cuisines from the dozens of books you gave us." Shaw's scalp was a little numb, but he smiled and waved his hand to let them be quiet. "Okay, my friends, don't be like this, the recipe will be given to you in a while, I'm here to inform you today." Before Shaw finished speaking, the elves exploded again. "Oh, the noble Black called me a friend again. I was so scared, but this was a recognition from the noble Black, and I was so moved. Sir, don't be like this. We are just elves. We are not worthy of being your friends. It is our great honor to serve you well. Woo, damn it, Spoon. How can you be moved by your wizard friends while blaspheming your ideals?" Shaw looked up at the sky and was speechless. It was like this every time. This time was not bad. When he first wanted to make friends with these elves, some elves wanted to commit suicide. After the elves vented their emotions, Shaw continued. "According to the previous instructions, you can start serving Chinese food tomorrow. Remember to reduce the number day by day. If someone comes to you to add more food, you know what to say, right?" That the leading old elf nodded solemnly. "Mr. Black, who is as great as Helga Hufflepuff, you are the first person in 1,000 years who is willing to teach us how to cook and respect us sincerely. We will follow your instructions meticulously." Shaw nodded with satisfaction and took out a few precious Chinese recipes that he had recently collected from his ring. "You can study these recipes of Chinese court dishes slowly. I haven't eaten them either, so I don't know how they taste." "Okay, Mr. Black." These elves immediately began to study the recipes as if they had obtained a treasure, immersed in the fantasy of providing better services to the wizard. Shaw said in his heart that these elves were a race that Joe Boppy couldn't help but reward. 2 nests, simple, hard-working, and unrewarding. He greeted the leading elf and left the door with satisfaction. In the kitchen, Shaw not only had the prerequisites to intervene in the Badger courtyard, but also gained 100 second-level faith points. And 2 third-level faith points. Needless to say, the second-level faith value is enough. Just show a little respect to the kitchen elves. The system doesn't even mention giving a task to conquer the kitchen elves. What a rubbish system. As for the third-level faith value, 1 point is contributed by the leading elf, who always says that he is as kind as Helga. 1 point is contributed by Klesh, who has been forced to sleep by Shaw. The house elves are so cute, I really hope there will be more of them. With the gradual increase of the little fans of the 2 colleges, Shaw now has 240 points of faith in the second level and 4 points of faith in the third level. As he walked towards the dungeon, he was thinking about the task of conquering Hogwarts, second ring, in his mind, and the progress is now 40%. For this task, he really worked hard. In fact, the 4 colleges are generally popular with a kind of doctrine or spirit, and Shaw is using these to counter-exploit the Snake College. Selfish, eager to be powerful, and pursuing glory, is the easiest and most difficult to conquer. I don't want to waste time, so I just use my absolute strength to wake them up. After a beating, the little snake's smart little brains will automatically understand the truth that following the strong will get meat, which is very worry-free. In the lion's house, personal heroism is too prevalent, which distorts the word courage, taking recklessness as courage and taking weirdness as personality. For example, the prankster twins, the bad-mouthed Lee Jordan, the photo-taking man Colin, the predator quartet, etc., all like to force fun on others and ignore the feelings of others. The lion's house also has a bad habit. Their so-called enthusiasm is just an alternative expression of showing off to show off their presence, which has spawned the habit of playing with whoever is popular and flattering the high and trampling the bottom. For example, the original Harry's reputation has ups and downs, and the little lions have shown inconsistent attitudes. Now Harry is treated in the same way, which is very bad. If there is no Snake House Demon King popping up from time to time in the magic world, leading the venomous snakes who were originally making a fortune in silence to consume each other with those lions, then, the biggest destabilizing factor in the magic world is actually a group of lions. In the Lions Academy, McGonagall, the former Hermione, Percy and others are the real normal people and the ones who save their dignity. For this seemingly great and eccentric academy, Shaw chose to conquer it more violently, corporal punishment plus a sea of questions. Shaw is certainly not a violent maniac. He chose to be roundabout in dealing with the little eagles and badgers. Eagle House, greedy, not only in knowledge, but also in other aspects, such as Lockhart's abnormal desire for fame and fortune. Wisdom gives the little eagles the wings to pursue knowledge, allowing them to soar in the lofty sea of knowledge, so Shaw used the trick to make the sea of knowledge thicker, turning it into a place similar to a land cage, making it difficult for them to fly. Badger House is the most low-key college and the most difficult to deal with. The little badgers usually stay in the caves and don't come out, but when all the animals on the grassland react, the grassland is already flooded with little badgers. Just like the current magic world, 70% of the positions are Hufflepuff graduates. Although there are not many high-ranking people, the magic world can be without purebloods in power, but it cannot be without Hufflepuffs. Therefore, the badgers are the most terrifying in the magic world, and Shaw has to admit that Helga Hufflepuff is the greatest founder. In the academy, Shaw has no better way, so he can only use Chinese food to make them obedient. He is not sure whether it will work or not. If it doesn't work, he will go to the secret room in advance to kill the basilisk and feed it to the badgers. The secret room is an auxiliary tool for him to brush the third-level faith value in the next school year, and he is really reluctant to give it up. Shaw was thinking all the way, and when he passed by a remote abandoned classroom, he saw a fat figure looking around at the door stealthily. Shaw was curious and walked over invisibly. When he got closer, he found that it was Neville, and through the half-open door, he saw Harry holding a wand against a dummy. Harry didn't chant the spell, his little face was flushed, and the tip of the wand occasionally flashed a little red light. Shaw suddenly realized and was surprised. Harry had already started practicing the silent casting of the disarming charm, and he had even figured out some tricks. Shaw remembered Draco telling him about Harry's recent experience. He was right. How could a person improve without practice? After a moment's hesitation, he decided not to disturb him. It would be good for Harry to experience the warmth and coldness of human nature. He left quietly and returned to the dormitory. There was no conversation in the middle of the night. The next day, at the breakfast table, everyone suddenly realized that there was something wrong with today's breakfast. That it was too delicious. The badgers even started to praise Merlin loudly in a rare and high-profile manner. Chapter 58. You are listening at novelfull.audio. There weren't many breakfast styles this morning, just 2, shrimp potstickers and pork heart porridge, and a glass of iced happy water. At the Slytherin table, Shaw ate potstickers and porridge decently, feeling inexplicably good. Alice beside him ate like a princess, and was really well educated. She chewed slowly and wiped the corners of her mouth with a napkin as long as there was a little oil stain. Draco was already very skilled at picking up potstickers with chopsticks and eating them in small bites. He now had no resistance to Chinese food. In his heart, the meat sauce apple pie made by his mother was the best food in the world, but now it might only be ranked 99th. Theodore usually didn't get close to Shaw, but stayed in the corner of the long table and ate silently, with a temperament of keeping strangers away. Even though it was the weekend, Slytherin still had to study early, and they were the first group of people to come. The little snakes were happy that they could suddenly eat the food that the chief usually ate, but they did not make a fuss about it. They began to learn to use chopsticks awkwardly, although the little lions also had morning self-study. After these guys were dismissed, they would usually go back to the dormitory to take a nap for half an hour before coming to eat breakfast. Some of them were too lazy to wait for lunch directly, so only a few little lions came to the hall first. The current atmosphere of Gryffindor is indeed different, but there are still many differences from the style of the Snake House. In order to distinguish themselves from Slytherin, who claims to be aristocratic gentlemen, the little lions call themselves ancient knights. When they meet people, they give a knight's salute, with their left hand on their right chest, their right hand taking off their hats, and their bodies slightly bowed forward and nodded at the same time. They walk in a very rigid manner. Although it looks awkward, it also looks like a dragon and a tiger, which is also a new scene on campus. After a few awkward moments, no one made a fuss. Of course, the girls in the Lion House learn the manners of their own dean. When the little snakes were about to finish breakfast, talents from other colleges arrived at the restaurant one after another. The little wizards immediately saw that today's breakfast and tableware were a little different. Many people recognized that this was what the chief of the Snake College usually ate and used. Everyone couldn't help but get excited. Some people had been craving for this for a long time. After all, they could smell the fragrance every day. Unfortunately, except for Shaw and his friends, the kitchen was not used by others. No one dared to go over to set up a table. Shaw's prestige had long been established, and the students of Badger Eagle College were also a little afraid. After all, the cold legend about Shaw has been updated to the 10th edition. For example, Shaw had to whip the tender backs of female students with a whip every night to vent his anger, and he had to eat 10 blood puddings, otherwise the big devil would not be able to help biting people. Hufflepuff Long Table. When it comes to eating, the little badgers have never been afraid, but they have to eat 8 meals a day. If they don't know how to use chopsticks, they just grab it with their hands. Anyway, they don't mind other people's strange looks, and there are a group of friends to accompany them. Oh, Merlin's golden fork, what kind of food is this, monkey? Cedric, don't learn to use chopsticks, try this porridge quickly, it's delicious and warm. Babbling, woo, it's very good to eat just one skin. Paired with this sweet and steaming drink, it's really enjoyable. It turns out that Shaw eats this kind of delicacy every day. He must be a gourmet. He should come to our Hufflepuff. Of course, don't bite people. The badgers ate unscrupulously, but they didn't make a loud noise. They all shared the experience of the dishes with 3 or 5 friends next to them. Many badgers were already thinking about making a similar breakfast. The little eagle was similar, but he was relatively reserved, but he ate with a smile on his face, thinking that if there were still these delicious dishes at dinner, he could take some back to the dormitory as a midnight snack. Everyone praised Shaw for his righteousness. Then the little lions who came late walked into the hall with their chests held high. They stepped heavily on the ground and made a clanging sound, and their presence was extremely strong. After they sat down, they found that breakfast was no longer pumpkin cakes and wheat porridge. However, these little lions knew the Vice-Dean's dietary preferences, and they also ate with winks. Then they behaved similarly to the eagle badgers, but there were still some differences. When someone smacked their lips or grabbed with their hands in a hurry, a few beautiful girls or Percy would cough lightly. This really embarrassed the little lions. It was the first time to use chopsticks, and many people accidentally stuck the chopsticks into their nostrils, so the dining scene at the Gryffindor long table was a little weird, solemn and funny. Professor McGonagall sat in the teacher's seat unshakably, looking at the large group of little lions who had only arrived now, and was a little dissatisfied. Then he was relieved again. This was already very good. The only drawback is that the questions recently are a bit brain-twisting and I have to ask other professors for help. She suddenly thought of something. The twins with stroke-like faces had cried to her several times. Well, it seems that the twins have not been deducted for 3 days. McGonagall is quite relieved. Should she persuade Shaw to reduce the punishment? Electrotherapy is too evil after all. It is better to increase the amount of questions. Slytherin. Shaw saw various scenes in the hall from the corner of his eye. He thought that if everyone ate happily, they would be happier in the future. If you take someone's money, you will be grateful. If you eat my food, you have to be obedient. Otherwise, he will make those cruel legends come true if he is forced into a corner. Shaw also found that Hermione and Harry did not seem to be here, so this thought flashed by Alice, who finished eating first, waited for Shaw to wipe her mouth with a napkin and habitually handed her a drink before speaking. "Chief, why are you suddenly popularizing Chinese food?" Shaw smiled warmly. "It is better to share happiness with others than to enjoy it alone. People should be good at sharing." Alice did not believe this nonsense. The chief must have a deep meaning for doing this. She was sensible and did not ask any more questions. "By the way, I have arranged the duel for the afternoon, but after counting the potion reserves, I found that there was a shortage. The weekly spell instruction class consumes too much potion, so I need to buy it from outside urgently." Shore touched his chin and thought about it. "No need. The dean is very supportive of my work. I will go to him for sponsorship later." Theodore suddenly came over and whispered in Shaw's ear. "Chief, I followed those restless guys and found that they were joining forces with several people from Gryffindor to practice freezing spells, or some advanced freezing spells. They may intend to do something bad to you. Do I need to teach them a lesson in advance? Cut off their hands or feet?" Shore said calmly to Theodore with a fierce look in his eyes without any anger. "Theodore, don't worry about these scoundrels. Don't worry about me. Grasshoppers can be easily crushed to death. Your future target is those man-eating beasts, so grow up quickly. You are my knife." Theodore's handsome pale face turned red, and he bowed slightly respectfully. "Chief, I know." Draco laughed at him. "Theodore, you are just worrying about nothing. The chief's strength is improving by leaps and bounds. What we should do is not to fall too far behind." Theodore looked at Draco coldly for a few seconds, and then took the initiative to stagger away and walked lightly to a remote place. Chapter 59. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Draco has been targeting Theodore recently, intentionally or unintentionally. Seeing that he had left, he wanted to talk to Shaw about how he could help Harry. "Sure, I thought about it all night last night and felt." But Shaw had already stood up and said to the embarrassed Draco. "Just do it if you want to. Have some ideas. I'm not your father. You don't need to ask me everything." After that, he went to the basement. He hadn't had friendly exchanges with Snape for several days, and his ability to hurt people has weakened recently. He came to the potion office with familiarity and pushed the door open, without waiting for Snape, who was processing potion materials, to mock him for being impolite. Shaw spoke first. "Harry will be beaten tonight. Will the dean go to see it?" Snape's words were choked in his throat. After taking a breath, he said coldly. "Childish tricks only pollute my eyes." Shore came to Snape's side and watched him skillfully handle an unknown blue potion material. His knife skills were quite impressive. "You can't say that. Harry is very strong now. If you don't go, I will let him fight on equal terms and let him shine." Snape's hand trembled and cut the material in his hand into pieces. He said without any emotion. "Second row of containers, take it yourself, and then, get out." Shore smiled knowingly, just like teasing Draco. It was also fun to tease Snape from time to time, turned around to get the potion from the container, and chatted with him. "Dean, are the Chinese dishes I asked the elves to send you every day delicious?" Snape smacked his lips, not knowing whether it was aftertaste or something, and then he continued to sarcastically. "Humph, the taste is not as good as the potion I prepared, and you still have the face to show off." Shore didn't care about Snape's various ridicules. The two were used to fighting. However, Snape's words suddenly inspired Shaw, and he muttered. "Cooking is really similar to making potions, maybe." Snape seemed to be greatly insulted and glared at Shaw. "Shut your mouth, don't use cooking, a job that even trolls can do, to taint the noble making of potions." Shaw smiled gently and did not refute, but took a few more bottles of energy potions. "He has been staying up late lately, and it's all thanks to this thing." Before going out, Shaw thought of something and came to Snape again, taking a box of pastries from the ring and putting it on the workbench. "Dean, This is the chamomile pastry I asked the elves to make using the Chinese cooking method. Remember to try it. Shaw walked out without waiting for Snape, who was shaking, to react. After coming back to his senses, Snape slowly opened the lid of the box with trembling hands, looking at the 9 white chrysanthemum-shaped pastries inside. He took out a piece of cake from it, put it between his nose and sniffed it. It was a familiar fragrance. He hesitated to put it into his mouth and took a small bite. The sweetness instantly filled his mouth, and Snape slowly closed his empty eyes. His thoughts seemed to go back to that year and that month, when he first met Lily, and she happily showed him the first magic. Flowers in the palm of his hand. Chamomile is as pure and beautiful as Lily. A tear slowly slid down from the corner of Snape's eyes. At this moment, he was happy. While Shaw and Snape were interacting, a big thing happened in the Ravenclaw Tower. At this moment, the little eagles gathered in front of the door knocker and were all dumbfounded. They were fine in the morning, but now they couldn't go back to the dormitory. Door knocker, a tree is 20 meters high. The snail under the tree climbs up 3 meters during the day and falls 1 meter at night. How many days does it take to reach the top of the tree? Little eagles, door knocker, there are 10 birds on the tree. Use a spell to knock one down. How many birds are there on the tree? Little eagle n+1, 9. Door knocker, wrong answer. Little eagle n+1, could it be 8? Impossible, absolutely impossible. Door knocker, wrong answer. Little eagle n+2, let me take over. According to the rules, we should change the question. Door knocker, 13 people are playing hide and seek. 3 people are caught in 3 places. There are still a few missing. Little eagle n+2 counted on his fingers, and felt that his fingers were not enough, so he borrowed a hand from his friend. After getting the answer, he said confidently, 4. Door knocker, wrong answer. Wizards in the magic world have never been sensitive to numbers. Banks are all managed by goblins. Even young wizards from the Muggle world are not sensitive to mathematics. Here's a joke. In the early years, the UK didn't have the multiplication formula. They used the line method to calculate multiplication. Even Cambridge professors couldn't calculate addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division properly. This shows how worrying the math level of ordinary people is. The door knocker just gave a few math problems with a little trap, and it stopped a group of young eagles. Even if the senior students who had learned arithmetic divination squeezed in and said they could answer for the relatively simple question just now, but the door knocker immediately changed to a question about chickens and rabbits in the same cage, and the senior eagle immediately became speechless. One by one, the eagles were knocked out, and soon all of them were wiped out. Even when Hermione came, she still couldn't answer it. All the eagles were very depressed. They didn't expect that there was knowledge in the world that they had not touched upon. They really didn't deserve the name of the Wisdom Academy. Some eagles have already asked the dean, hoping that the dean can order the crazy door knocker to stop making weird things. How nice it would be to ask riddles that had multiple answers in the past, such as is love sweet or bitter? What is invisible when in use, but always appears when idle, etc. As long as the students make sense, they can enter the door, instead of this kind of math problem that requires a clear answer. After Flitwick came, he communicated with the door knocker, but after a long while, Flitwick still couldn't beat the stubborn door knocker. The knocker argued, "This is a new knowledge, infinitely profound. I also felt its sweetness when I first started. As a Ravenclaw who is greedy for knowledge, how can I not understand it?" Flitwick had no choice but to try a delaying tactic. "Mr. Knocker, I will definitely let the students learn these related knowledge in the future. Can you let them enter the lounge first today?" Knocker, "No, this is my principle. Even if the headmaster comes, I won't open the door." Flitwick's idea of inviting the headmaster was immediately shattered. His little head hurt. He couldn't let his students sleep in the corridor tonight. At this time, Hermione said weakly, "Dean, why don't you ask Shaw to try? He grew up in the Muggle world and should know these math problems. As long as he gets one right, everyone can enter the door." Flitwick turned his head and asked in confusion, "Hermione, are you so confident in Shaw?" A trace of struggle flashed in Hermione's eyes, and then she nodded. "Shaw always has a way, and we have no better choice. Flitwick thought so too. Sure is indeed a magical boy who can manage Slytherin and Gryffindor so well. If he didn't know what kind of urinary eagles in his own academy are, they are also very well behaved. He rejected Shore's punishment method from the bottom of his heart, which made him recall many bad memories. Otherwise, he really wanted to imitate Minerva. Who doesn't want students to make further progress? By the way, Shore is strictly speaking his colleague. Flitwick smiled at Hermione. Go to Slytherin and invite Shore. Chapter 60. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Shaw came out from Snape, he did not return to the dormitory, but came to the request-granting room. After entering the room where he usually practiced spells, he took out his wand and prepared to practice spells, and National Collapse seemed very excited, and the wand was trembling slightly, as if urging Shaw to use it quickly. Shaw chuckled, holding the purple-red wand with 2 fingers like holding a sword. As the magic power surged, a layer of purple light began to wrap the wand, and it quickly turned into a lightning sword. The lightning sword was 3 feet and 2 inches long, engraved with mysterious runes, and the sword body was filled with purple lightning, and flashing arcs, which was very domineering. Shaw's whole body was dazzling with the light of lightning, and he waved it melodiously at a thick stone wall in the corner. Dozens of crisscrossing 1-meter lightning blades appeared out of thin air, interweaving into a large purple net, and quickly crashed into the stone wall. The lightning blade net covered one side of the stone wall, and then easily cut into the stone surface. A second later, the net came out from the other side and slowly dissipated. On the stone wall, the center was still flashing with bright purple light, crackling, rustling stone powder, and small stones cut out fell down one by one. An irregular hole with an unusually smooth cut soon appeared in the center of the stone wall. That's right. Shaw now has an authentic lightning spell, and the source is naturally the super easy to talk to Grindelwald. This month, the two of them corresponded twice. Shaw thought of Grindelwald's reply last time, and almost couldn't help laughing out loud again. This kind of thing that Shaw scolded himself was the first time Shaw had seen it. As for the culprit, Shaw said that he was still a child. What bad intentions could he have? That is, the last time, an old fan mailed him a few books of thunder spells from the East. There are not many thunder spells in the West, but the old fan has many connections, and it is not easy to get 2 good thunder spells. One is Thunderblade, and the other is Thunder Lightning Ring. Shawer learned Thunderblade very easily. The power effect is to transform into a thunder sword, which is shot outward. The effect is just average, not as good as God's Shadowless Secret, but Shawer's thunder element talent is max. Now that he has a sample spell, he can improve it, so after a month of research, he got a new thunder spell. I haven't thought of a high-sounding name yet. Let's call it God-Killing Thunder Lightning Sword for now. Right? Right? This spell can not only be used in close combat, but also can send out a thunder blade net with a blocking effect, which has very strong penetration. If the opponent's defense is strong enough, there will be continuous damage after being attached by the thunder blade net. As for the other spell, Lightning Ring, Shaw didn't have the energy to learn it yet, and drinking energy potions wasn't enough, as he was indeed busy this month. However, the effect of this spell was quite practical. It could condense a lightning ring behind him, which could be used to fly with someone, and the lightning ring could also fly out to act as an attack. Don't worry, take your time, he's still young. Shaw looked at the lightning sword wrapped around the wand in his hand, and then looked at the effect of the previous attack, and was quite satisfied. With a shake of his right hand, the lightning sword disappeared, and with another shake, the lightning sword was condensed again, and he repeated this process. To experience the details and principles of the spell, he felt that as long as someone could introduce him to the lightning spell, he could develop well. Just as Shaw was immersed in research, Draco ran over with a strange look on his face. In this room, everyone who owned the throne knew and could use it. Draco looked at the illusory lightning blade in Shaw's hand, and when he got closer, his face was slightly numb from the sting, and his platinum hair began to flutter. In his heart, he complained that Shaw was getting stronger and stronger. Such a genius, and still working so hard. Tut tut. Sure, something happened in Ravenclaw. Hermione came to you for help. I know you don't like her, so I've gone back. Shaw paused, swung the thunder sword in his hand, and the entire thunder sword flew out of the staff and shot directly at the already broken stone wall. Boom! After a violent explosion, the stone wall was blown into ashes. Shaw put away the national collapse that seemed to be unsatisfied, and said to Draco, who was swallowing his saliva, "Let's go." Oh, okay. Draco looked back at the smoke and dust that had not yet fallen, and sighed in his heart whether those unstable guys had a bag in their brains. With Shaw's progress, he will be able to become a great man in less than 2 years. Their parents are also sick, and they are Slytherins, and they don't have any sense at all. Well, except for Mom and Dad, the two of them were just blinded for a while. Shaw and Draco came all the way to the Ravenclaw Tower. They saw the little eagles sitting on the ground in groups of 3 or 5, looking listless, and some of them were even dozing off on their companions, looking a little miserable. For Shaw's arrival, Shaw the eagles were still very welcoming. After all, he was really capable. They immediately made way for Shaw to go to the door knocker, although Shaw's image in these people's mouths was unbearable to look at behind the scenes, like a devil. But what bad thoughts could a child have? Shaw walked to the door knocker, and Professor Flitwick said warmly, Well, Shaw is finally here. Hello, Professor." Shaw bowed politely, not looking down on the short Professor Flitwick at all. "Don't be polite, let's try to answer the questions first. The children have been outside for a while. Fortunately, it's not winter." Flitwick's reputation for loving students is not exaggerated. Shaw naturally saw that he was really anxious, and he didn't waste any words. He stepped forward and played a double act with the door knocker. "I want to go in." "Door knocker, Muggle trains have no magic, why do they run?" The other eagles were all dumbfounded when they heard this question. Isn't it a math problem? Why did it change again? Everyone has ridden the Hogwarts Express, but no one has really explored how it works, but they all know that it is powered by magic. But what about the trains in the Muggle world? Shaw smiled knowingly and pretended to be in deep thought. The little eagles also scratched their heads and tried to think of the answer, but they still couldn't find the answer. They looked at Shaw, the powerful foreign aide, expectantly. Behind the crowd, Hermione's expectant eyes gradually became anxious. The idol should know how to do it, definitely. Shaw saw that the fire was about right, so he spoke loudly to the door knocker. "It is powered by steam. To explain the principle simply, put the iron stove and the kettle together on the wheel, and use the piston to pump. So, the train can run without magic." The little eagles seemed to understand, but they also felt that Muggles were not useless and could be so smart without magic. Correct answer. The door knocker opened the door. Professor Flitwick, who was also fascinated by the speech, was immediately delighted and called the excited students to hurry in. After the little wizards entered the door, Flitwick called Shaw. "Come on, go to my office. I have the best pudding in England. By the way, tell me about Muggle mathematics. There is also something similar to the train just now. We must solve this problem quickly, otherwise the door knocker here can't be guarded 24 hours a day." Shaw smiled. Professor Flitwick was so considerate that he saved himself from taking the initiative to speak. The eagle trapped in the sky officially began.